Hi, I'm Milo Denison.
And I'm Kev Bamboo, and this is Rip It Up Again.
Rip It Up is a topical show about life impacting creatives around the world today.
Yeah, and on tonight's show, Milo, we are thrilled to be joined by a man of many, many talents, actor, writer, musician. It's Andy Milligan, who's also the host of the Seeking Happiness podcast. We'll talk with Andy about his own happiness journey and some of the obstacles along the way. But before we talk to Andy, Milo, as usual, I've got a question for you. People say you come across as grumpy, and I know that's not true. So to dispel any rumours, what makes you feel happy?
Who says I'm grumpy? I'll kill him. What's funny is because obviously we share the show notes before advance, and I read this and I was like, and I'm reading this, I'm like, what makes you feel happy, Milo? And I'm like, crap, I don't know what makes me feel happy. Like I gotta think of an answer to this question.
It's a tough one. Yeah.
Being on a motorcycle and just cruising down the road with the wind flowing past me on a motorcycle on a nice warm day, or a box of puppies. A box of puppies makes everybody happy. A
box of puppies?
Doesn't that make everybody happy? A box of puppies. Or kittens, if you're a cat.
It depends on the context of the
They're all alive. And they're cute and fuzzy puppies. So they're all living. It's not a box of puppies.
What makes me feel happy. Yeah. What makes me feel happy? It's recording these shows with you. Thanks, Kev. Look at that. See, it's time of the year to be giving.
All right. Well, I'm sure
you're gonna go and throw up.
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me for a minute. Let's not talk about our happiness then, because I'm sure we'll have plenty of happy subjects as this goes on. And let's speak with our guest, Andy. So Andy, thank you. Welcome to the show. It's really great to have you here. And let's just start with having you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, hi, Milo. Thanks for that. And thanks for that great introduction, Kev. That was really nice. A man of many talents. I hope so.
Wow.
So I'm Andy Milligan. I have been a musician. I have been a teacher of English and media studies and film studies. I'm currently, the last couple of years, I've been doing acting. What else can I tell you about me? I've got a beautiful partner called Alice. I've got two lovely teenage children, which is a challenge every day. But I think we've got to a good point in their lives now where they're starting to grow up and become good young women. And there's less of the dad, can I have this? How much is this going to cost you? So that's always positive. What else can I tell you about me? I think I'm going to let you lead with some questions, Milo.
Yeah. So you're from the West Midlands, aren't you, Andy?
Yeah, from the West Midlands. I'm originally, I spent a lot of time in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland, because my mum's Irish, my dad's Scottish.
Common ground here in the room. I'm the outsider now.
Yeah, I lived in Dublin for 7 years.
Oh, mate, yeah, it's a great place, Dublin. It's what I'd recommend though, Milo. I don't know whether you've been out into the countryside.
Got all over the place.
I mean, that's real Ireland. You know, when you get out into what we call Colshy countryside, you know, that's a great place to be. Dublin is great though. It's got very commercial.
How long were you out there, Milo? You was out there about 7 years?
Yeah, 7 years before coming
in.
You
spent a chunk out of there.
Yeah, so. But yeah, rode around, did a road trip, did the Wild Atlantic Way, of course, went and visited as many of the little towns and yeah, met plenty of people with such thick Irish accents. I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying, but I know you're speaking the same language, but with your accent, I don't know.
Hey, Milo, to be honest, you need to go to the West Midlands because there's people there that sometimes you just won't have a clue what they're saying. And it's definitely full of characters there. But so Andy, let's get into it a bit about, happiness, because obviously do the Seeking Happiness podcast. Yes. So from your point of view, what is it ultimately to be happy or feel happy?
I think when I started the podcast, I was searching for those exact answers, Kev. I'd gone through a period where I hadn't experienced happiness for a while, and it became clear to me when I had some sessions with an NLP, neuro-linguistic programmer, over the internet, where we had some counseling sessions. And one of the questions he asked me was, when was the last time you actually felt happy? And I couldn't come up with an answer. I couldn't remember. I said, obviously, you know, my children being born, meeting my partner, all the obvious stuff. I said, but a prolonged period of happiness. I said, does it exist? I said, is happiness a fleeting moment that we all experience? So I became very, very interested in this myself, and decided that I wanted to speak to some professionals and find out what their journey was all about. So I managed to get an NLP therapist that I spoke to in episode 1, and he gave me some really good insights into what happiness was, how I could find happiness. And then it was a journey really about just speaking to various people about what they thought happiness was, how they'd reached a point of happiness. And these were all professionals, nurses, police officers, people that have been successful in business. And, you know, I think what I was trying to explain to any of the listeners was I don't have those answers, Kev. I don't really have those answers. And I'm on a journey, and I'm asking the questions because I want to know how other people have got to this point of happiness. And it was really about listeners sharing that experience from other people and sharing that journey with us. So happiness at the moment is, for me, is living in the moment, getting up each day and treating each day as a new experience, that anything's possible, that you can change your life, which is something I've personally done over the last 2 or 3 years. You can change lots of things about yourself. You know, the simple things that I've learned, just about drinking water, making sure you're hydrated, going on long walks, you know, making sure that you're going through nice countryside, you're seeing a bit of nature. One of the good tips that the NLP therapist told me was about watching too much news, just explaining about, you know, going back a few hundred years ago, people used to wait for the traveling minstrel, didn't they? To come along and tell them the news of the day or what was going on. And the news would probably be 1 or 2 years old by the time the traveling minstrel got there. But we're so impacted by immediate news, what's going on in the world. And I think if you watch too much news, like this guy said, I think that can affect you. So I try not to watch too much TV these days, too much news reports. I have a rough idea of what's going on in the world, obviously. But just trying to focus on my own life, live in the here and now, and start appreciating, which I hadn't done for a while, but start appreciating all the things that I do have in my life. I think we can all sit there and dream and say, this is where I want to be, this is what I'm searching for, this is going to bring me happiness. And sometimes some of those key points, we've already got them, we've already acquired them, and you forget about it, you know. And it's just really taking time to sit and think about your life and your place in the world. I think some people refer to it as meditation, don't they? But
yeah, and I think, like you just said, it's like surrounding yourself in kind of more happy situations and scenarios that you've got control of, and realizing what's already in place.
Yeah, spot.
I think. Yeah.
And I think too, like, one piece of advice I got once was, don't compare yourself to others and stuff, because sometimes we're like, oh, if that person, they're rich and they live this life, or maybe my life isn't so bad because I'm not in some third world country, you know, farming dirt kind of thing. And it's like, you don't compare, just just live your life, which is good. And I love your point about news coming from the US. Obviously, it's a very polarized country right now with a lot of angry people, And when did that kick in? Well, when we got to this whole 24-hour news cycle thing where everybody's got their phones and they're reading or seeing news that basically just reinforces our opinions, and so it's quite hostile towards each other.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and the other thing, just on what you said there, Milo, is why I wanted to interview a lot of people from different backgrounds was I think everybody's idea of happiness is very different, and I was just trying to get to a point where any listeners could make a connection, because I know one individual's idea or what they do perhaps won't touch a listener, where somebody else's ideas and how they change things, that might be the point that will change somebody, So yeah, that's it's a very difficult thing, isn't it? Happiness. It's a very it's a very individualized view of where you are as an individual. And I think you made another good point about comparing yourself to other people. I think I did that for a long time. I think I was always looking at other people and look how great they are, look what they've got, and just not seeing myself, losing track of who I was as an individual and what I wanted out of life.
Yeah, I think it's easy to not be relative, isn't it, at times, like you say, because you'll just see someone else maybe getting on at a certain point and you're just like, oh, damn. But as you say, you've got to be relative to your own scenario, because you could have way more things in place than you ever realised.
Yeah. I think that's right. Yeah, and when you sit and take that time to actually think about your life and think, it's about the people as well that you surround yourself with. I mean, there are some, one of the things I realised was there are some really negative people that were in my life that were just not helping me at all. And there are always those people that are on the phone. Oh, come out, let's go for a drink. They call me, as you know, Kev, a lot of people call me Millie. Come on, Millie, come out, come and have a drink. Let's go and do some stuff. And just realised that these guys aren't happy, and they're not bringing me to a place of happiness. It's and I think I explained to you as well before, Kev. One of the things that I did, I stopped drinking. I realised that I was consuming excessive alcohol every day, every week, and it just wasn't doing me any good. It just wasn't helping.
Well, I think actually, Andy, to be honest, I think Milo's got a question that's going to kind of lead into that. So
perfect. Brilliant. Well, because I think it is a perfect transition, actually, because we're talking about happiness and what makes you happy and stuff. But of course, there's always those bumps in the road and things that impact it. And in your case, you did mention addiction, and you have a cerebral palsy diagnosis as well.
No, it's multiple sclerosis.
Multiple sclerosis. Sorry, that's yeah. I'll blame Kev for that.
Yeah, blame Kev. He always gets it mixed up.
Yeah. But I know like stuff like that certainly can have a huge impact. I'm actually, oddly enough, I'm reading Michael J. Fox's book right now, and talking about how like he was quite young and getting his diagnosis and stuff, and how it impacted him. And I actually have a cousin that has cerebral palsy. And so I can see how this could impact your view of happiness, this why me, that kind of stuff. And then if you have addiction issues as well. So
yes. Yeah, I think that was the thing, Milo, when I first got diagnosed, was that exact question, why me? But and I think that's the hurdle you have to get over. And it's like a death in the family. That's the only way I can describe it. It's you go through those stages of recovery, that complete shock, which is quite hard to get over, and you just get to a point where I think I kept being asked over and over by professionals, where do you want to be? And I just said, really, I just want to get to a point of acceptance. I just want to get to a point where I can accept this and just move on with my life, and just say, this isn't the end. This is, I don't have to look back at what I've done in my life and say that this was the end of my journey, and now I have to just sit in a chair and just accept that I'm not well. I was just like, you know, there's so many. I think what hit me and eventually got me out of the shock was there's so many things that I want to do in my life, you know, and I just thought, you know, if I just sit here and just contemplate what I can't do, I'm never going to do anything. So,
So like basically, it was like an activator for you, really, in some ways, to be like, you know, what, I need to have a go at whatever.
Yeah, massively. It was it was in a very bizarre way. It was like a kick up the backside that I needed, really, just to view my own life, have a good look round, and what is it that I want to do? Have I been doing what I wanted to do? You know, how can I move forward? And that those are difficult questions to answer. I mean, it wasn't easy for me to come to any conclusions on my own. I needed to go and see professionals, you know, people that have experience of these issues. And I can't state enough, you know, how supportive my partner Alice has been. It's just amazing. I just feel very lucky, you know. Again, one of those things that you look around your life, what have I got, where am I? Just so lucky, mate, you know, to have a partner that's so supportive and just permanently, you know, encouraging and positive. I'm truly blessed.
Do you think that made you take, not that it's saying that you never appreciated before, but do you think that made you take stock of what you actually had? Absolutely. Because of that event? Yeah,
absolutely. It's yeah, I think I was, again, just very very self-obsessed, very very focused on me and me having a good time. Everything else was like a secondary thing in my life. It was you know, partner, my kids, everything else came second. I did what I could. I think I was a good dad. I think I am a good dad. And I think I was a good partner. I was always there when difficulties arose, but it really did, you know, it gave me a concerted kick up the backside to just look at things in a different way.
Yeah, I think there's like, with anything like that, there's a balance, isn't there, that needs to be struck, because you've got to enjoy yourself. But obviously, if it goes way over where everyone else is getting put to the back, then it impacts your personal life.
That's right.
More than the ideal life that you wanted to kind of just constantly run with.
Yes.
I think that's that transition of when we've been younger, like we don't, not even as we go into adulthood more so, we still hold on to that for us. And I think blokes do that a lot, you know, they hold on to it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I've got to be kind of, like you said, you still got to be seeing the lads or whatever, or you get those peer group pressures, which we don't think as adults that really exist, but they still linger and nag a bit. And then we become kind of like, if we're more lean towards that kind of attitude, then yeah, you're going to end up with circumstances like yourself, which I'm sure are going to be replicated. But I do like how, I know that it shouldn't take something major to happen, but often we hear so many stories where major events in people's life get them to change tack a little bit. And I think that's really poignant. And especially around this time of year when people are going to be maybe, you know, over enjoying themselves and things, and they might not be considering, you know, everyone's entitled to let loose, have a nice time. But I think it's important to hear conversations like this, because then people can reflect on it. And you highlighting your own issues, that's obviously, like, you know, might help others to kind of talk about some of the things that they've gone through or are going through.
Absolutely. I think that was the purpose of the, you know, doing my podcast, Seeking Happiness podcast, was just to give people something to listen to realize, actually, you know, I'm not the only person that's feeling a bit down, that has, you know, some problems. And one of the things that you touched on there about somebody I interviewed was talking about there is a statistical curve that's been brought up in circles of science, where men especially that are approaching 40 do have this moment of you know, what have I done with my life? What have I achieved? You know, looking back through things and what is it that I want to achieve? And that they do have, you know, men especially, they do have this panic moments where they almost go into a downward spiral of, you know, negativity. And I just think it's really important, especially again amongst men, that we are aware that people suffer problems, because we're from a breed that you know, our fathers, I think, were from a breed that just didn't talk about things like that. It wasn't spoken about. You know, my dad, big Scots guy, pat on the back, you know, sort yourself out, son, pull yourself together. That's about the only advice I ever had. And
yeah, I think it goes two ways. Either they were either just like, you know, crack on, get on with it, or they just weren't present at all anyway. Because if they weren't working, they were down, you know, drinking some ale somewhere or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah, you know what to do. You don't need any guidance.
That's right. That's right. So,
I want to move on to your creative side a little bit, because obviously you started out as a musician.
Yes.
You've thrown yourself into the world of acting, TV, and also immersive entertainment. So I think maybe we might know what you might say on this, but what actually encouraged you to go into that type of work?
I think you know, when I was young, I was always fairly creative. I was always a drawer and a builder, you know, around the house. Quite happy to do things on my own. I remember having something called in the local wood, I had something called the singing tree. And I used to climb to the top of this tree with a magazine that you used to be able to get called Smash Hits. Hits magazine used to have all the lyrics of all the top 40 in there. So I used to sit with my copy of Smash Hits, knowing I was in the middle of this wood, and I just used to sing at the top of this tree. So I always knew, I always had this thought. I was one of these kids that created his own radio show at home. You know, recorded, hey, and welcome to Andy Milligan's radio show. And recording songs and just trying to put tapes together. And I had a guitar that hung on the wall. I think it belongs to my brother. And I put it on the wall because it was aesthetically pleasing to look at. I was really into rock and roll.
You just wanted it as an ornament.
Yeah, as an ornament, mate. I was into 50s rock and roll. I had posters of Elvis, Buddy Holly, Eddie Cochran. And I decorated my room very 50s. It was like stepping back in time when you used to walk into my bedroom when I was a teenager. And I don't know, mate. I just had one of those days where I was looking at the guitar. I'd probably been to a party and saw some dude sitting in the corner playing a guitar and thinking, wow, this guy's surrounded by women. I mean, the chicks really love the guitar player.
I think every guy's had that experience at some point. Be like, yeah. I want to play the guitar now.
I want to play.
I was the dude sat there with a triangle in me.
I know, mate. Yeah. So yeah. Well, nothing wrong with a bit of rhythm section. But yeah, I just ended up playing the guitar, learning to play at home. Got myself a gig with a guy that I'd met, just the two of us, and announced to the family and everyone, we're going to do this gig. I think everyone was like, I don't even know you played the guitar. Didn't know you. And just we did it. I loved it, mate. And we did that for about 6 or 7 years. And it was great. I mean, one of the great periods of my life, because I just remember wherever we traveled to, you just had a bag of clothes and your guitar case. I think mine's just in the corner behind me. But you had your guitar case, and that was it, mate. It was just a complete lack of responsibility.
Just chuck the guitar in the van, chuck your bag of clothes, and off you go.
Fantastic, great. You know, it was a good period of my life. But obviously got into my late 20s and just realised this isn't sustainable. I'm not going to make it as a musician. So yeah, just decided to go back to university. So
what happened with what made you decide to go into the acting part as well? That's more recently coming.
Yeah. I mean, that's
closer.
probably last 2 or 3 years. Me and my sister have always been big film buffs from a very early age. There's not many movies that we hadn't seen. We just sit and watch, and Lisa's one of these. She remembers everything. Actors, supporting actors. We'd have that banter about, that's that guy from that film, and so we really love film from that. And then when I went and started teaching English, there was no one teaching media. And I took on the media department. I set the media department up in the school I was in. And after I'd done that for a few years, realized I went along to a meeting with AQA, the people that did the specification, and it was getting really difficult. So I looked at the film studies specification. I thought, this is really good. Pupils will be really interested in this. I was interested in it. So we were making a lot of films at school when I was teaching, and just always liked doing that when I was doing the teaching. And then when I gave up teaching, when I decided to resign, I had a random email from a company I'd signed up for. I think it was Star Now.
Right.
Yeah, that I'd signed up for years ago, mate, because I was looking for musicians. And they just sent me some random email saying there's a film being made in Birmingham at the town hall. Are you available for 7 days? I wasn't doing anything, mate. I'd literally just resigned my English job. And I thought, I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to go and just try and be positive, try and do something. And I remember Alice calling me up and saying, what are you doing today? And I said, believe it or not, I'm driving I think I had to drive to Derby, first of all, to do a fitting.
Okay.
And I just found that whole experience really bizarre. Initially when you turn up on your first shoot, which I'm sure you'll remember, you try and clothes on, there's nowhere to change really, so you've got to whip your strides off. It's like you're 7 years old again in Marks and Spencer, and they had no changing room, and your mum was like, put those trousers on, and you're like, oh,
yeah, your mum's dragged you by your ear to go and try some trousers on for either a function or yeah.
So it was good, mate. I enjoyed it. I did it for 7 days. Didn't even think I was going to get paid. And when they paid me for it, I was like, this is the best thing I've ever done. So just started from there. Met some really nice people. People gave me lots of different agencies, signed up for these, and just stayed doing the work. And then I did something. I've only had an agent for a couple of months now, but I did something about 6 months ago with it was called Firebrand. I think it's out next year. And I got asked by the director, Kareem Anous, I think his name is, to do an audition with 4 or 5 other guys. I turned up as an extra, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'll do it." We went along and we delivered our line, and he gave me the role. He asked me where he's from. I said, "Oh, I'm from the Midlands." He said, "Is that near Warwick?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's quite near Warwick. You're now the Earl of Warwick." The film was about King Henry VIII, who was Jude Law's King Henry VIII. Alicia Vikander is she's Catherine Parr.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was amazing, mate. I loved that. Just getting a few lines of dialogue in that. Really enjoyed it. And there was a guy on it called Eddie Marsan, who's been quite a few things. And I was linked with him quite a bit on set because I was one of his people, Earl of Warwick. He was playing Seymour. So I was sort of always with him, and I started talking to him about acting, asking him, how did you get into it? He was like, you really need to get an agent. And I just said, have you got anyone you can suggest? And he gave me a guy's name. And I just emailed him, dude, and just said, "Oh, look, this is me." Gave him a bit of my show reel, which I, put together very, very quickly, and gave him a few insights myself. I had a Zoom interview with him, and he took me on. He was like, "Right, I'll take you on. I think you're confident, and you're very interested. You seem to know what you're talking about." So yeah. So that's been cool. So I've been with them.
So was you winging it at that stage? Was you?
Well, pretty much so, mate. I think it's just the experience of teaching. I think that's a great training tool for any actor. But it's you have to go into a room with children, that are anything up to. I mean, I was teaching A level as well, so it's kids that are 14, 15, 16, some 17, 18. You have to entertain them. You have to go in, you have to put on a show. You remember yourself what it's like at school. If the teacher's boring, mate, you just, oh God, you switch off. So you've got to entertain them. Do you know what I mean? And teach. So I think I think that's where a lot of my self-confidence, and again, being in bands and having to stand on stage in front of 50 or 60 people and sing, and remember lyrics, when you're singing, which, Christ almighty, I can remember that many times, mate. I remember Didier once left me on the stage, and I think I went to do The Drugs Don't Work by Richard Ashcroft. And I remember he was going to the toilet, and he walks off. I got halfway through it, mate, and I forgot the words, and I forgot I was in the wrong key. I was playing the guitar in the wrong key. It was awful. I could see these people looking at me, all these people drinking their beer, looking at me and I knew it was awful, mate, but I finished it. I finished the song. I remember seeing Didier's face, and he was just shaking his head. But I thought that, that's a little bit of confidence that you develop. You've got to finish it. You can't just stop and say,
just carry on through.
I'm a complete tit. You've just got to carry on.
Milo will know that from kind of his theatre background. Sometimes you've just got to soldier. You've got to soldier through.
Yeah, pretty much, man. That's the way it goes. So it's the same with musicians. You soldier through. Although it is kind of funny sometimes when you're at a concert and the musician's like, wait, I messed up. Let's start over. And you're like, oh, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. And the other thing is we used to do a lot of our own songs. We would do covers. And clearly there's a lot of people in the crowd that know all the words. Yeah. And when I used to do a cover, if I did forget the words, I'd just make it up. I'd just keep sing the first thing that came into my head, and I could see people thinking, I don't know this verse. What's this?
Absolutely.
But again, that's it. You've just got to get through. You just got to improvise. Yeah.
That's the same with stage acting.
Same with stage. Yeah.
But speaking of movies, and specifically your name, Andy Milligan, you share your name with plenty of other famous Andy Milligans, including the famous cult B movie director, Andy Milligan.
And also the writer for UK comedy presenting duo Anton Deck as well. But we've got a very special feature for you at Rip It Up, Andy. We're now looking for as many Andy Milligans as possible. We've already chalked off 3.
Wow. That's right. So we've got Milligan's Eye, which is what we're going to call it. Yeah. And Andy, as an Andy Milligan, if you were in a room full of Andy Milligans, what would set you apart from the other Andy Milligans?
It's a really weird one, Milo, to even think about that. It just makes me think of the film Being John Malkovich. Mm-hmm. And I'm just thinking of people looking at each other going, Milligan. Yeah. So what would set me apart? Wow. What would set me apart? I think, I was going to go back to, probably because it's on the forefront of my thought process. about just having a bit of self-confidence. But those people that you've mentioned, I think, to do what they do, the film producer or the film director and the comedy writer for Ant and Dec, I think they must have so much confidence.
If you've ever seen an Andy Milligan film, he must have confidence, because
Kev
they're
was
not good films.
Kev was telling me about it when I spoke to him last time. I've got to get myself one of these films, mate. I've got to.
Yeah. Monstrosity, or what's the other one? The Weirdo.
The Weirdo.
Surgical. Wow. They were 3 of his last films, I think.
Yeah.
Fill your boots. You'll have a whale of a time.
I'm definitely checking him out, mate, because I've just got to do it. It just reminds me of there's another Andy Milligan. I was working at Director Inquiries years ago, Milo. We used to have, instead of people picking up a phone, we used to have a phone book, you know, and I'm sure like they did in the States, but instead of people actually making the effort, they'd call 192 and they'd say, oh, I'm looking for this number. And you give them out the number. But this guy had called me up, and he said, oh, my name is Andy as well. I said, oh, you know, brilliant. We started a conversation. I told him my name was Andy, and he said to me, what's your surname? And I said, it's Milligan. And he was like, no way. He was like, my name's Andy Milligan. And I was like,
you just got some weirdo that had gone through the phone book.
Just some random person.
I'm going to ring all the Andy Milligans.
Mate, he told me he runs a pub in Liverpool, and he said I'm the licensee, and if you ever come in, you've got free drinks, my friend. So I've got to find this bar. I've got to find this bar in Liverpool where I can drink all night.
Brilliant.
That's great.
Let's go back. What would make me stand out? I'd say I don't know what. It's I've got sort of auburn hair. It's the Celtic background, with my dad being Scottish, my mum being Irish. So I think the guys that you're on about, I think they're both sort of quite dark set, black hair. If I'm
I think Andy Milligan, the director, did, and I think the writer for Ant and Dec, I think he was dark haired. I think he's a bit more of a dusty cue ball these days, but he's
so maybe I'm going for something physical. Talking of that, Kev, I noticed I did Man Like Mobeen quite recently.
I
was just a prisoner in that, like most people on it, but the he wrote that, Andy Milligan.
Andy Milligan did, Yes, a good link.
Which I was thinking, I wonder if they actually gave me the call, they gave me a job, because they were like, this guy can't be another Andy Milligan.
You know, it might be one of those things where, and I'm not disputing your talents at all, but you know when they're like thinking, oh, we want some Easter eggs to chuck in this show. So when there's a fact that comes down the line, you know, in a few years or something after it's been out, they'll be like, oh, and did you know these YouTube vids where like, did you know? It's like, did you know that one of the extras in Man Like Mobeen was called Andy Milligan?
You've now demoted me to a fucking Easter egg.
Everyone's like, there's no point in watching that.
Fair enough, mate. Yeah. So I can't think what else apart from being a bit confident in myself, my own abilities, you know, my auburn hair. I'm not sure what else would make me stand out. Apart from, I guess I would think I'm the real Andy Milligan. I'm the real Andy Milligan.
This is it, yeah. In a room full of imposters, who are you? Yeah.
You could be the Andy Milligan over in the corner with your guitar, and all the other Andy Milligans, and you got all the girls around you, and all the other Andy Milligans are like, man, I wish I had a guitar.
Milo, I like that.
That'd be brilliant.
I like that.
There you go.
That'd be a great sketch. So talking of confidence, Andy, do you want to do your first performance, your poem? Let us know what's about.
I'll do my poem. So this is a poem I wrote. It's about my first love. I think I was probably going into my mid-20s. And I've always been a writer. I've always written. One of the things that my mother always said to me, she used to find lots of papers under my bed, not tissues, papers that I wrote that I'd written poems and songs on. Always writing songs and poems, but this came into my head within minutes of her leaving me. So she danced through my dreams before I was born. Our souls were entwined, a love vow was sworn. In life I kept searching until she was found. Destiny called for my queen to be crowned. She's far from me now. I'm alone with my pain, yet still on my deathbed I'll whisper her name. My love, why hast thou forsaken me? And I didn't realize at the time it's actually a sonnet. It's actually a sonnet. I didn't realize it, but until I started teaching English, I looked back at it years later and I thought, God, I wrote a sonnet. It's amazing. It's amazing.
And you didn't even know it.
It's a poem for a lost love.
Yeah, but it's great too because, everybody when they've had ended a relationship at some point has probably had those feelings as well, and it's like, I can relate to that. Cool. My life is over.
Yeah, that's it. It just feels like, I think we were together for 7 or 8 years, and it just felt like everything had finished.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good chunk of time, isn't it, as well? Where
it was a good chunk of time.
But great piece. It was lovely for you to share it with us, mate.
No worries.
So we've got another little mini feature now, and this is your turn to turn the tables, and It's on to Milo. So it's our mini feature called Ask an American.
Brilliant.
So Andy, off you go. Ask Milo.
So Milo, I was in your hometown of Seattle a few weeks ago.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, my bro lives there now. He's been there about 12 years. So it was great. I mean, it's my second time there. It's a great place. But one of the things that he introduced me to, and I have heard of this over the years and through watching several movies, but what can you tell the British public about the Twinkie?
The Twinkie, the pastry, the
pastry bar, mate, because we just don't get them here.
Yeah. So,
what a great name for a pastry.
What's funny is like movie references to Twinkie. Like the Family Guy did an episode on the Twinkie. And basically, it's like this apocalypse, nuclear winter, and they go to a factory, and it's like the only thing living that still survived that's edible is a Twinkie. So that's the joke about the Twinkie is that it's this sugar puff thing, kind of bready on the outside and pumped full of, I don't know, white liquid sugar in the middle of it. Then that will survive a nuclear holocaust and stay around forever. And then
I'm just trying to think, what was the zombie film? Was it Zombieland with
Zombieland as well? Yeah,
isn't that what he wanted as well? He wanted
always searching for a Twinkie.
One of the Twinkie.
Twinkie. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about what is our UK equivalent? And I was thinking, would it be a Jaffa cake? Would it be something like that where we're not sure whether? I mean, there's this debate that's gone on for years. Is it a cake? Is it a biscuit?
I mean, I'm trying to think of something else that would be quite close, but I think that's been like an import as well, which is like we've got the yum yum, kind of the twisty thing, which gets a little bit close, but it's still not. It's not quite a Twinkie, is it?
It's not a Twinkie.
Milo cakes are good though. Like
Milo,
I agree. I think
Milo. Do we know why it's called? Do we know why it's called a Twinkie?
No, I have not researched Twinkie history. I do know apparently a few years ago they stopped making them for a little while.
No.
So apparently I think it had something to do with maybe a different company taking over Hostess or something like that. I don't remember the full reason why, but apparently they stopped making them for a little while and then they started making them again.
Yeah.
Wow.
And do you think that's the most cherished pastry in the US?
I hope not.
You saying that's like me saying I hope baked beans aren't the most loved thing in the UK, and I'm like, because I don't,
Yeah, I mean, they're probably one of the more well-known ones. I mean,
Yes.
everybody knows what a Twinkie is,
That's right. Yeah.
but it's not too often you see people actually eating Twinkies. I think that's the thing with the Twinkie.
You think it's like a secret thing they do.
Yeah. Well, because you eat them
I'm
and
a
you're
secret
like,
Twinkie eater.
it's good, but you can also feel your teeth cracking a little bit from the sugar.
Right.
And so they're not the healthiest things. So I think that's why
Do you reckon it's like one of those, is it like a desperate snack? You know, where someone's just like, oh,
have you never had a Twinkie, Kev?
No, I've never.
Oh, I think some of like the shops that sell certain American foods, you can find them here. I think you can find them here in certain like American shops. I say that in quotes because like
the kind of American
like,
section.
Yeah, exactly.
And Milo, what would you say is the UK equivalent of Twinkie?
I like the Jaffa cake option. Like everybody knows what that is, but it's doesn't taste. It's not the same thing in regards to just everybody knows it and everybody knows what it is kind of a thing. Is probably the closest relation, but in regards to like taste and consistency, they're completely different. But
yes, you don't have chocolate on your Twinkie, do you?
No, I think you can. I don't know. I think you can like batter them and deep fry them or something like that. I don't know.
Wow,
something that you can do, but
like a corn Twinkie.
I haven't had a Twinkie in so long. It's been a long time since last time I had a Twinkie.
I want a deep fried Twinkie now.
Yeah, I think you can get those at like fairs and stuff. So next time you're in Seattle, go during the summer when the Evergreen State Fair is on, and have your friend take you to the Evergreen State Fair, which is south of Seattle. It's huge. I would imagine if you can get a fried Twinkie, you can definitely get it there.
Wow. Yeah. I tell you what,
I always remember in the UK when they started bringing out the equivalent of corn dogs in the UK, which is
obviously no kid. I haven't had a corn dog since I moved to Europe.
But they bought them out, like they marketed them in the UK a little bit, just as like this really cold thing in a foil wrapper that wasn't hot. They were in like the chillers in the supermarket, and my impression was that a corn dog was like almost the same. You go to like a hot dog stand, but you get a corn dog, wrapped in this nice corn, a shitty sausage in a, it's just saturated goodness.
No, corn dogs are delicious. Also available at state fairs. Let's move into our next segment, which is badly drawn bamboo. So, Andy, you have drawn a badly drawn bamboo.
Well, I don't think it's that badly drawn.
Uh-oh.
I did spend. I spent at least 10 minutes on it. I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay. Would you like me to display my badly drawn bamboo?
Absolutely.
Show it up, display, and I'll rate it. Oh, I tell you what. Bring it a touch closer so it comes into focus.
That looks like a serial killer. That's like what you would see if they were down, like putting a picture of a serial killer up on the nightly news.
Just hold it up.
This is the drawing of the serial killer.
There, so I'm going to pose as well.
I think that's
I like that. I don't know what's going on the other side of it.
Whether you still had your moustache.
Yeah, no, that's it. The tash is here, but I've got a bit of extra. But
you've got a bit of goatee beard going on.
What's going on the left hand? Well, as I look at it, on the left hand side, what happened to his ear?
His right ear?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It become a bit like John Merritt.
I think basically what happened was I forgot to put an ear on. And then I quickly sketched one on.
I tell you what, you've got my nose. You've got my nose spot on. The form of my nose, yeah.
But the rest of it is badly drawn.
It's got kind of like Picasso elements to it,
Oh, I'm
like
pleased with that, mate.
Yeah.
Things aren't quite in the... You can clearly see I couldn't find a pencil, so I used a green pen.
Oh, brilliant! No, I actually, as a badly drawn bamboo, that's not that badly drawn. So I'm gonna have to give it a. Oh, which way do I work this round again, Milo? If I give it a low rating, it meant it was good.
That it was good.
If I give it a high rating, it means it was an actual badly drawn.
Yes.
So I think I'm gonna have to give you something like a 3 out of 10, because it's better as a normal drawing as opposed to.
I didn't want to let you down, bro. I like you, Kev Bamboo. I couldn't have drawn you looking like I think a serial killer is actually quite a good description of it.
Yeah, you tried. You tried your best.
You do look like something out of Guess Who.
Yeah. That might come in handy later on. You could probably sell that to the news station at some point and be like, they might need that.
I see this dude. Yeah. That just
Yeah.
looks like something that appears in, like, the crime files or whatever. And there's like, they've been in the courtroom and there's a sketch.
I think you've got a good jaw on it.
Yeah.
I've given you a solid jaw.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's more solid than mine. Right, that's brilliant. Anyway, so yeah, 3 out of 10.
Thanks,
Must
mate.
do better in the doing bad steaks.
Thanks, mate. Thank you.
I bet a teacher's never said that to anyone, have they?
No,
You must do better at being worse.
It would be far too confusing. The kids wouldn't understand me.
Be like, what are you on about, sir? What do you mean? So yeah, we're talking to, obviously, host of the Seeking Happiness podcast, Andy Milligan. And so obviously the title of that needs no introduction, Andy, but how did the actual pod itself come about? Because we've talked about finding happiness on your own personal route, but how did the pod come about? And to anyone that hasn't listened, what are the actual aims of that pod?
The what of the pod?
For anyone that hasn't listened, what are the aims of that podcast?
The aims really are just to give people an understanding that that lots of people have problems, are dealing with problems. They don't know how to deal with them, and it's to give people a set of tools, really.
Yeah.
Even if it's just one tool to make a difference in their life, to help them, to listen to other people's stories about how they changed their lives, how they made some improvements, turned negative things into a positive outcome. So that's the main aim, really. And it started again, after my diagnosis and sitting around the house for 6 months, because I didn't want to interact with people. I struggled just to, one of the clearest memories I have of that period was neighbours knocking on the door, just trying to see if I was okay. They probably heard, that something had happened, or that I think one of the neighbours had realised that my car was never leaving the drive.
Right.
And whenever he knocked on the door, I actually remember running into the kitchen and hiding, sitting on the floor and just hiding in the kitchen. And I remember just having that moment of what am I doing? This is just getting ridiculous. I don't want to interact with anybody at all. I was sitting in the same chair in the house every day, all day, not moving. I couldn't interact. I think the classic answer to my partner was when she said, are you okay? She always laughs about it. It says she won't let me just say fine now, because that was my standard answer. I'm fine. She won't let me say that now. I've always got to elaborate. But yeah, just trying to keep people back. I guess because there was parts of my own psyche, my own state of mind that I didn't want to explore myself. So I didn't want to talk about it with other people. And I think what happens is you just shut down, you switch off. And again, the podcast was really, it was part of my own therapy, Kev, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was just to help me to start interacting with people again, to start talking. My friend Didier, the guy I was in the band with, he's clearly French. I don't think anyone in the UK has a name like Didier, but he he we had spoken a few times. He knew about it. He was always trying to be really helpful, call me up. Again, one of the things that I didn't want to keep talking about was MS. I didn't want to keep talking about it, but that was people's first talking point. Oh, how you doing? How you feeling? I've read this article, blah, blah, blah. But he suggested to me about doing a podcast because he was having problems himself. And he said, oh, this would be a good thing if we could just go on an exploration of how we can improve our lot in life. So yeah, we just said we're going to do it. It was very difficult to get started, even just coming up with a name. It just seemed like we were doing Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting,
just going over, names,
just in a cyclical process about how we're going to set it up, what's it going to be, the context of the podcast. So that went on for a while, and then eventually we got it up and running. And Didier dropped out then after about, I think we did about 15 or 16 episodes, and he dropped out. So I just decided to carry it on my own. He I think one of the problems with Didier was he was still having a lot of problems at home, mental issues. He'd moved back to France about 4 or 5 years ago. He hadn't lived with his parents for 20 plus years. He'd been in England for 20 years. When he first came over here, Kev, he didn't speak any English. My French is un petit peu, a little bit, very, very pigeonhole French. But we both play guitar, so we could sit.
Nice.
And play guitars, and that's how we communicate. Music is an international language, isn't it?
You literally could question and answer with each other, couldn't you?
Yeah, that's right. He'd play a little riff, I'd play a little riff back. But yeah,
and before you knew it, he was on the set of Deliverance.
That's the first thing that came to my mind too.
Remember it well. Great film, Burt Reynolds. But yeah, it was really important for me to keep it going. I've got another guy now who's going to get involved. He's going to be a guest. He was a guest host, but he's going to be now a full-time host with myself. So we're just moving into the new year now and thinking about how we can come up with a new format. But yeah, the aims have not changed really. It's just because I don't think, some people have said that you cannot reach a state of permanent happiness, and there's a certain part of me that agrees with that. But I certainly think you can change things in your life to make them better. To give yourself a better understanding of yourself. You've got to be a bit more open with everybody around you, and more open with yourself. So I think
that's an important one, isn't it? And also, I think, like you said already about your pod, is that what's great is actually having the people on and seeing what their versions of happiness is.
Yeah, because everybody's different. Yeah, as we spoke about earlier, everybody's different. Everybody's got a different outlook. And it's just in terms of, I interviewed my brother, that his journey. There was a couple of people that we interviewed that I think that moved to the States that we sort of put into the title, The Journey West. And I just spoke to him about his journey. And, one of the things that he spoke to me about, which really touched me, he was talking about why he got into rock climbing, which I knew that he did. Clearly, I knew that he did that. But, he honestly told me, he said, I had a fear. He said, I had a fear of heights. I had a fear of the journey. And I just realized that the only way of overcoming that was to face your fears. And I think that's the reality for a lot of people in life, into reaching for any sense of happiness, is facing your fears. Ant Middleton, the guy who does the SAS program, He does he does a touring show now where he does that. I'm sure his book has been called Facing Your Fears, but I really believe in that. I think you've got to face up to what you're scared of and realize that you can surmount those things. You can move on to a better place just by standing up and saying, you know, I'm going to give this a go. And again, coming back to the acting thing, mate, you know, it's not something, a bit like teaching, if somebody had told me this in my early 20s when I wanted to be a musician, you're going to be an English teacher, you're going to get into acting, I'd have laughed and said, no, it's not possible. It's not going to happen. It's not me. I can't do that. And I think anything that you face up to and address, you find things about yourself that were hidden. They're always there. It was always there for you, but it's just been hidden from you. And it's about exposing that you know, secretive areas of yourself that, you know, that can bring you to a new idea of happiness. And honestly, doing the acting stuff and meeting yourself on several productions, you know, but working in the, you know, film and TV, it's just been great, mate. It's just been one of the best things I've ever done. But, you know, again, if I hadn't have started to explore that, you know, I wouldn't have done it. It's not something that I would have thought, oh, yeah, I can do this. I just wouldn't have done it. So I see it as a bit of good fortune. What I said earlier about getting that call and going to, it was called The Colour Room. It was about Clarice
Cliff.
Yeah, it was that one. It was just an amazing thing, man. I think one of the other things that came out of doing the podcast, I can't remember who said it, but during one of the interviews, someone was saying about things that happen in life, certain things that happen that we ignore. They happen in everyone's life. You think, oh, it's not for me. You don't look at it, or it might be an invitation somewhere. I'm not going to go there. Or I'm not going to do that. And just, you know, just start trying to have a new outlook of, I'm going to just accept things, or accept things that I wouldn't normally have accepted, go to places that I wouldn't normally have gone to. And it just opens up so many amazing things, you know, that it's really changed me over the last 3 years, I'd say.
Well, speaking of going places that you've never gone before, if you were on a desert island, nice transition there.
Brilliant. I saw that.
If you were on a desert island, Andy, and you could take just one thing with you in this place that you've never gone before, what would that one thing be?
I thought about this. I mean, it's a classic. It's a classic question. I think I've probably used the idea of the island in teaching lessons with pupils about, you know, what would you bring? Maybe I've given them a choice. I think one of the lessons on that you always do is the sinking ship. It's like a psychology thing, and there's a certain amount of possessions on the ship. What would you take from the ship to the island? I don't think I'd take anything, you know, probably people have come up with really clever answers like a penknife, or something that's going to be able to help me create water.
We've had some interesting ones on the show for sure. Yeah, someone said they'd take a mattress with them so they could sleep all day.
Sleep comfortably.
And another person, crazily, I don't know if they were just trying to get brownie points, but they said they'd take the wife. What are they playing at?
I know. For the company, maybe. For the company, yeah. I mean, I thought about this, and I was sort of stuck between two. I was stuck between a photo album, which has photos of all the important people in my life, like my children, my partner, my parents, brothers and sisters, close friends. So I thought about that, but I think, you know, as much as that would be great. So I think my imagination can still my memory would still be able to focus on that. But I think I'd bring a book. I think I'd be just the classic English teacher, very boring, very creative. I'd just bring a book, a classic book that gives me inspiration of some kind. And I was thinking of two books that I read. What the first one that I'd probably bring would be Papillon by Henri Carrière was the writer. I think you've probably seen the classic Steve McQueen film, and there was an updated version.
Yeah, I've read the book.
The book's fantastic, Milo. I mean, that part where he's in solitary confinement, and he's just, he's in there for years, and it's just about him trying to find that process of how he's going to get through it. I thought that was a really good insight into him. The other book that I'd probably think of, because I just think it's a very inspirational book, is The Count of Monte Cristo, the Alexander Dumas book, because I just think that's it's a great book, just about keeping going in the light of adversity, just being able to dig deep and fight and succeed and survive. And it always reminds me of, do you remember Teletext, Kev, years ago?
Oh, yes, yeah.
I remember it was advertised on, my brother was looking at...
So one sec, because Milo, basically, I don't know if you knew, Teletext in the UK was basically like an information service that was literally on your telly. You pressed a button and it'd come up, but it was probably other places in the world have been doing something similar for ages, but when it came in the UK, it was literally revolutionary. And then they binned it just kind of on the cusp of the digital age.
That's right.
And it was just, forgotten, but it became this kind of iconic, service. People would get the news headlines, little quizzes and stuff. So that's Teletext. Back to you, Andy.
But my brother was on Teletext looking for what was on TV for the TV lineup that evening, and he called me in, and The Count of Monte Cristo was on. But if you remember Teletext, Kev, sometimes there'd be a lack of letters in it. Some of the letters would be missing out, and I think the letter O was missing out of the count. And, he just called me in to look at it, and it just always...
Look at this.
I know. We're not going to say the words, but it made me chuckle at the time. And again, just always makes me think of that book. Just what a great experience. I think I'd got the book on the basis of watching the film. I read the book afterwards, and was so inspired by it. So I think that would be on my list as well.
Do you think those two books, obviously, because your answer is you're going to take a book or books with you. So do you think those answers are there because they'd help you, when you need that distraction from your mind?
Correct.
Like so you're kind of going towards insanity on the island, that you'd have some escapism.
That's right, mate. I think a bit of escapism and a bit of, both of those are about guys that are, struggling with difficult times. One's been sent to French Guiana. In the case of Papillon, the Count of Monte Cristo, he's obviously, had a long prison spell, and he's trying to sort out his idea of revenge and how to change his world. So I think that would help me. I think that would inspire me while I was on the island, just to keep going.
So the only thing I'm going to ask you now, because obviously I hope that you've got books, but I hope there would have been some food on that island. But I'll rip it up. This is another food-based question.
Go on.
We always ask people what it's our ultimate question, really. And it's
I'm just going to say, you do realise I'm just going to say Twinkie.
This is a specific food. So this is what is your favourite cheese or cheeses?
Ooh, favourite cheese. I do like a brie. I like a nice ripe brie. Yeah. On a
Not a big fan of
cracker,
this, just sat outside for a week.
a salted cracker, a nice ripe brie on a salted cracker. You look more like a baked camembert, Kev.
Me, no, I don't like gooey cheeses too much. Actually, no, I don't mind camembert, but I don't like it when it's gone
Gooey.
messy. Yeah, it revolts me. No,
Right.
but I like it in its more solid form. Like I don't like some people find that weird, but I do actually like a slightly firmer camembert.
You like a firm cheese.
I do like a firm cheese. Milo, what's something, because you're a big fan of cheese as well? What was one of yours?
It's hard to say because I don't really have a favorite cheese. I like different cheeses for different reasons, kind of depending on the purpose. If I'm eating it with something, is it going on crackers? Is it going with meat? Is it,
This is true,
yeah. So there's a few that I probably don't like. I'm not a huge fan of the stinky cheeses, like but for the most part, I like quite a variety of cheeses.
I think it's a good accompaniment, isn't it? That, cheese you can whack it with.
After living here in Ireland for so long, I'm kind of sick of cheddar. If I go the rest of my life without ever touching cheddar cheese, I'll be perfectly fine with that.
You can't beat a good bit of cheddar, though, Milo.
Oh yeah. Here you can get your red cheddar, your white cheddar, your aged cheddar.
I remember being amazed.
Talking of accents, because I remember doing an episode several months back, and we did some accents at one point. Now, Andy, obviously you're from Birmingham, from the West Midlands, and I said to Milo at one point, a Birmingham accent would be a good one to have a go at, because it's a very distinct one in the UK. Yeah. So I'm gonna add this one in here. Andy, you say something stereotypically kind of West Midlands or even Black Country or whatever if you want.
Yeah.
And then I want to see if Milo could give it back.
Okay.
Or have a bash. Yeah.
All right, Bab. I went to the local shop and I bought myself a cheese and it was right proper busting.
All right, Bob. I went to the local shop and bought myself a cheese and it was right busky. Spot on, if I do say so myself.
You nailed it.
It still had an Irish lilt to it.
It definitely had an Irish lilt.
Yeah,
I noticed
the last word was busting, not busky, busting.
Busting.
Something's really good. It's busting.
Busting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I noticed that as I was saying it. I'm like, this is getting a bit of an Irish.
This is going bad. But you've got to, the show must go on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the show must not go on because we all have lives outside of this show.
Yes.
So
we do.
So
I've got more cheese to eat, and I'm going for a Twinkie.
Well, yeah,
excellent.
We're gonna take some cheese and wrap it around a Twinkie. So cheese wraps Twinkies.
That's good. Listen, dude, you could sell that. That's going to sell.
I'm sure somebody's tried it. But Andy, before we go, it's a pleasure talking to you.
Yes.
Can you let people know where can they discover your podcast? Any projects you're working on, or things upcoming that you want to share?
Of course, yeah. I mean, if you go on to any search platform, put in the Seeking Happiness podcast, or you have an Alexa, just ask Alexa, the Seeking Happiness podcast, and you'll find it, and then you'll be able to. I think there's about 25, 26 episodes now, so you'll find something of interest to you, something that helps you out. In terms of myself, I'm just classically on Spotlight for my acting, or IMDb. You can catch me on there, or if anybody wants to get hold of me, you can get me on Instagram on Andy Milligan 77.
Excellent, that's brilliant.
All right,
nice one, Andy. Yeah, thanks for an insight.
Thanks, boys. I really enjoyed that.
Thanks for an insight into your career, mate. Obviously, talking about things to do with addiction, the multiple sclerosis as well, and then your own route to seeking happiness. So
we're gonna make it,
listen.
Kev. Me, you, and Milo. We're gonna make it.
We're all definitely
One of these
gonna make it.
days. One of these days.
But that roll's going to land on a desk, and I'm having it. No.
As always, that was a fantastic show. But what have we got coming up next in the Rip It Up universe, Kev?
Yeah, Milo, basically coming up on Rip It Up, we've got a film review of The Weirdo over on Rip It Up Reviews.
Andy Milligan. Woohoo.
Yeah, Andy Milligan. But not that Andy Milligan. And then we've got an aspiring stand-up comic with a foodie-based background called Emily Brighty.
That's fantastic. We've got Andy Milligan film, we've got food, and we've got comedy. All sounds wonderful.
Brilliant stuff. Catch you next time.
Next time.
Why can't people be nice to one another?